Many news channel flashes and talks about recession and so does even many economists. आप बहुत सारे यूट्यूबर्स को भी देखोगे, everyone is talking about recession. But कोई ये टॉपिक नहीं कवर कर रहा डिटेल में exactly what are the points that you need to consider and analyze when it comes to predicting the recession and understanding the recession. So आज के वीडियो में मैं इसी के ऊपर बात करने वाला हूँ where I'm going to talk about 3 important factors and points that you need to consider when analyzing any recession. We will see in detail how to utilize these points in understanding the recession. Over and above, we will also see some historical recession which has happened in the past and what are the learnings and takeaway that you could take understanding these recessions of past. As per RBI's data, for the period before 2000, there were 4 years precisely on which India saw a decline in its overall GDP growth, which was 1958, 1966, 1973 and 1980. Now, if we look at this data over here, there were different reasons in each of this period, but there was one common point and we will try to understand that in detail. Let's try to understand the definition of recession at first. So अगर हम recession को देखेंगे तो in a year there are 12 months which is divided in 4 quarter. हर एक quarter में 3 months का bucket होता है. So recession का एक simple definition है कि अगर GDP का growth कोई भी 6 महीनों में, that means in consecutive 6 months, that also means in 2 quarters, if there is a decline in the GDP growth of a nation, then it means we are entering recession or we are in the early phase of recession. Why 6 months is considered? Because in a financial year there are 12 months. That means half of the year nation has seen a degrowth in its overall productivity. Let's try to understand the 1958 crisis, which is also called as balance of payment crisis, where balance of payment ये एक financial jargon है. To understand it bit more in detail, let's see what has happened in 1958. So 1957, exactly a year back of this crisis, आपको पता होगा इंडिया बीइंग एन इंडिपेंडेंट नेशन, वो टाइम पे इंडिया का बहुत ज़्यादा डिपेंडेंसी वॉज ऑन एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर. एंड वो टाइम पे बिकॉज ऑफ अ वेरी वीक monsoon there was a drought like situation in the overall agricultural production which led to decline in the agricultural production, जिसके कारण the prices of the product was rapidly increased. Over and above, India had to import a huge amount of agricultural products even from outside, and it even exported those products which it could produce at a higher scale. So हुआ ये कि India back then in 57 period used to import somewhere around 20 lakh tons of agricultural food grains which are required by Indians, you and me, our forefathers I would say. Further, because of weak monsoon, India had to increase its import by it almost doubled its import capacity. So it was importing 20 lakh tons previously, it started importing 40 lakh tons in the year of 1958. Now because of this there was a deficit which occurred. Now इसका एक सिंपल तरीके से देखेंगे तो इंडिया कुछ फूड ग्रेन्स से राइस एज एन एग्जांपल, इंडिया इज इंपोर्टिंग राइस वर्थ ऑफ $2 billion outside to external countries, plus India is importing say any other cereals or pulses from these nations which are required by Indians. Now इसके कारण एक ट्रेड डेफिसिट क्रिएट होता है where India is exporting say for 4 billion but importing for say 5 billion. So that means there is a deficit of 1 billion which India had to pay to this other nation. This deficit earlier was only for 0.1 billion, but because of this weak monsoon and because of heavy import which India had to do because of this weak monsoon situation, the deficit increased to $0.9 billion. इसी का सिंपल मीनिंग है बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट. दैट मीन्स इंडिया के पास कुछ बैलेंस था जो इंडिया को दूसरे नेशंस को पे करना था बिकॉज ऑफ इंपोर्टिंग हेवी अमाउंट ऑफ फूड ग्रेन्स बिकॉज ऑफ द रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ द नेशन. And further, the weak monsoon led to a decline in the GDP for 1.2%. The 1966 crisis also was primarily because of more or less the same reason, which was weak monsoon. So in 1966, explicitly during that time, it was much tougher situation for India because India, after independence, being heavily dependent on agriculture as a primary sector for its overall economic production of the country, this drought situation declined the GDP by 3.7%. So the bookish definition of drought simply means that whenever the average rainfall which is expected in any nation declines by 10% than what is the normal average, then it is called as a drought-like situation. You can see in this data here which says that the average rainfall in the year of 1965 was 18.2% lower than the normal rainfall which was expected. Now the learning as a takeaway for you over here is एक नेशन का जीडीपी प्रोडक्शन या फिर जीडीपी आउटपुट जो है वो कुछ सेक्टर्स के ऊपर डिपेंडेंट होता है. वो टाइम पे एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट था. देयर वर अदर सेक्टर्स आल्सो बियॉन्ड एग्रीकल्चर विच कंट्रीब्यूटेड टू जीडीपी. सो अ स्मॉल चेंज और अ स्मॉल इम्पैक्ट ऑन primary sector of that nation leads to a very catastrophic and a very higher impact on the overall GDP output, which can lead to the recession with time. Whereas in today's time, the scenario is totally different. India का production, India का GDP सिर्फ agriculture पे depend नहीं करता है. इसीलिए अभी अगर weak monsoon हुआ, कोई ड्राफ्ट लाइक सिचुएशन भी हुई, तो भी इंडिया का ओवरऑल जीडीपी आउटपुट डिक्लाइन नहीं होगा. Let me prove you with this chart here. As you can see in this chart here, which says that for the year of 2021 and 22, if we see, the agriculture sector explicitly contributes only merely 18 and 16% in these 2 years. Vis-a-vis, if I consider additional sectors in our analysis, so let's consider the industrial sector and as well as services sector, then the scenario and the picture entirely changes. Now, this information tells me that agriculture is only 16%, but whereas services is 47%. That's why India's GDP and the output production at this point in time is majorly on the services sector and also very extensively on the industrial sector, which is 25%. That is the reason why I said that even if agriculture sector has an impact, India's overall GDP will not have a major impact in its output. But if there is any impact on these sectors, which is services and industrial, then there would be a catastrophic impact on the overall GDP of India. That's why it is necessary to keep your eyes open and focus more on these sectors than agriculture sector. Yes, agriculture is important, but the weightage of overall contribution of agriculture sector towards GDP has declined, and that is what we can see in this chart here. Over and above, if we talk explicitly about services, there are multiple sectors which are concentrated further heavily within that 50% contributions, which are like telecom sector, IT sector. Out of all of these sectors, IT sector contributes maximum. Let me know in the comment below. I will also put my answer, how much is the contribution of IT sector to the India's GDP. Moving on, let's try to understand some bits and pieces and details about the energy crisis of 1973. Well, recently you must have come across this news of Russia-Ukraine war and the energy crisis happening across Europe and those regions. That's not the first energy crisis. The first energy crisis occurred worldwide in the period of 1973, and that was because of the war between Arab nations and Israel. The war name was Yom Kippur War. You can go and Google and find the details about it. Now there is an organization called as OPEC, which is Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries. Because of heavy oil reserves with them, they could actually govern the prices and the overall supply of oil worldwide. Now, they targeted those countries which were supporting Israel. As a result of it, the oil prices increased by 400%. Now, India being a nation which was extensively dependent on other countries, even now for importing the oil requirement, the crude oil which India buys, that time the crude oil prices, the import bill, the bill that India had to pay for other nations for importing the oil increased by more than 50%. So the bill which was in the year of explicitly 1973, which was for 400 million, that increased to more than 900 million in 1 year's time. And this was twice the amount of foreign reserves which India had. So what does foreign exchange reserve mean? एक simple terms में फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व का यही डेफिनेशन होता है कि कोई भी कंट्री एक फॉरेन करेंसी को अपने पास होल्ड करती है ताकि वो उनके साथ ट्रेड कर पाए. जैसे कि इंडिया डेफिनेटली यूएस डॉलर को अपने पास होल्ड करती है, पाउंड्स को अपने पास होल्ड करती है, यूरोस को अपने पास होल्ड करती है. वाई? बिकॉज इफ इंडिया हैड टू ट्रेड विद दोज कंट्रीज हु आर यूजिंग दिस करेंसीज एंड इवन टू अदर कंट्रीज हु आर यूजिंग दिस करेंसीज एज अ पार्ट ऑफ देयर ट्रेड कम्युनिकेशन एंड ट्रेड पेमेंट्स, दे कुड इजिली यूज दिस मनी. सो वो टाइम पे जो इंडिया का रिजर्व था उससे भी कहीं ज्यादा इंडिया का इंपोर्ट बिल आ गया था, वेयर इंडिया कंप्लीटली वेंट आउट ऑफ फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व दैट इट हैड. सिंस देन अंटिल नाउ, और इसके आगे से, और इनफैक्ट दैट वाज द स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट वेयर एनर्जी बिकेम अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर फॉर इंडिया एंड देयर वर मेनी एनर्जी रिफॉर्म्स बीइंग मेड इन इंडिया बिकॉज ऑफ दिस एनर्जी क्राइसिस, जिसके कारण इंडिया पे 0.3% का जीडीपी प्रोडक्शन पे हिट हुआ था. नाउ मूविंग अहेड, एग्जैक्टली सेम क्राइसिस हुआ बिकॉज ऑफ द वेरी हाई प्राइसेस ऑफ ऑयल इन द पीरियड ऑफ 1980. सो दैट क्राइसिस इज कॉल्ड एज ऑयल शॉक क्राइसिस. उस टाइम पे कोई वॉर नहीं हुआ था. उस टाइम पे जस्ट बिकॉज द प्रोडक्शन वॉज लेस, द ओवरऑल सप्लाई डिक्रीज्ड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट एंड द हेवी डिमांड ऑफ ऑयल बाय ऑल द नेशंस. द प्राइसेस ऑफ ऑयल वॉज shoot up and India had again a balance of payment crisis because India का जो payment था to other nations also increased, and it led to around 5.2% decline in the GDP. So in a way, why I'm covering this as a first part before we go into understanding the important points to consider and how to analyze recession, it is very important to take away some learnings from this recession, that there are external factors which leads to a decline in the GDP. There are wars which lead to a decline in the GDP. Oil is very important thing which leads to a decline in the GDP. इंडिया ट्रेड डेफिसिट, दैट मीन्स जो भी इंपोर्ट करता है एक्सपोर्ट करता है उसके बीच का जो डिफरेंस है, अगर इंपोर्ट बहुत ज़्यादा है एक्सपोर्ट से, सो दैट लीड्स टू ट्रेड डेफिसिट. दैट इज ऑल्सो एन इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट व्हेन इट कम्स टू अंडरस्टैंडिंग द इकोनॉमिक स्टेटस ऑफ एनी नेशन. इफ यू हैव लाइक्ड दिस information and content and want more of it, then subscribe my channel. Let me know what is it that you would like to know about. I would be more than interested to gather some more insights and bring it to you. Also, if learning is your foremost priority and you think that is the only way one can really grow and become rich and be a very wise investor, then follow me. This is Ajinkya. See you in the next video. Good luck.